There are no easy choices for European leaders, and dismay at the Polish government's turn away from liberal democracy. To ignore the ruling Law and Justice Party's incursions on judicial independence, signed into effect by President Andrzej Duda on Wednesday, would be to tolerate sabotage of fundamental treaty principles that member states signed up to when joining the bloc. But the sight of Western states, above all Germany, berating Poland risks stoking a nationalist backlash that is cultivated by Law and Justice to advance their goal of monopolizing power. Amid this tricky transcontinental row, Theresa May flew to Warsaw with senior cabinet ministers, seeking to develop a strategic alliance with Poland ahead of the second phase of Brexit talks. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki obligingly signaled that Poland would back the UK on a bespoke deal, including services. Mrs. May offered a security partnership with a country anxious about an ever more assertive Russia. This bilateral bargain is complicated by the European Commission's deep suspicion of UK efforts to negotiate behind its back. It fears that London's divide-and-rule strategy will work better in the second phase of Brexit talks than in the first, when it hit a wall of pan-EU solidarity. The Tories have made common cause with Law and Justice before. Many European leaders wanted Mrs. May to signal her goodwill to them by transmitting in Warsaw their view that Poland has crossed a line. Instead, she described constitutional issues as primarily a matter for the country concerned, not the EU. The EU's response to Poland has so far been gestural. The activation of an Article 7 admonishment does pave the way for material punishments, including the suspension of voting rights, but in practice those measures would be blocked by Hungary. There is a geographical and historical component to these tensions. Former Warsaw Pact countries that joined the EU in 2004 feel patronized by longer-standing Western members and see double standards. Silvio Berlusconi's cavalier contempt for media plurality went unpunished. Only this week, Austria formed a government that includes a far-right party with roots in that country's neo-Nazi movement. Yet the new administration is warmly treated in Brussels because it is enthusiastic about the European project. Also, Austria has the euro. The possibility of a Premier League of EU states, based around single-currency membership, is much enhanced by Brexit. It leaves Poland as the biggest non-Eurozone member. The UK was also a leading advocate of EU enlargement, partly because it wanted a wide and shallow union. Eastern expansion was partly intended as a brake on Western-centered integration. Hardly anyone in Brussels welcomes the UK's departure, but as talks get tough it might increasingly be seen as a blessed relief, the amputation of an infected limb, permitting less inhibited forward movement. British Euroscepticism has been an irritant to EU officials over the years, but it has also been a valuable component in the mix. Brexit is by definition a uniquely British phenomenon. But nationalist politicians blaming the EU for domestic woes is not. The Polish government's undemocratic lurch deserves criticism. The unsolved riddle for Brussels is how to uphold the values on which the EU was founded, using methods that do not cultivate resentment and so further undermine those values.